help Mom before me.
When I went to my son's house, I found my 10-year-old grandson, who should have run away, chained up. As I was about to help him, he said that my daughter-in-law, who should have been deceased, was there. But your mom passed away. When I opened the floor as my grandson instructed, there was my dried-up daughter-in-law lying there. What on earth happened? I was in a panic due to the unimaginable situation. Afterward, a series of horrifying truths were revealed. A year ago, after my husband passed away, I had been living alone. However, my son's family lived just a 30-minute walk away, so I didn't feel lonely. Especially my 10-year-old grandson Ron, who often rode his bike to visit me.
Grandma. Look. I got a perfect score on my math test.
I was always charmed by my kind and smart grandson who visited me out of concern. My son Simon, at 34, was a company employee. He had earned a qualification in economics at university and was using it at work. He seemed busy, so we didn't see each other often, but I thought it was proof of his hard work. Instead, my daughter-in-law Lily often visited me. "Hello, how are you doing?" I was always grateful for her concern.
"Mom, you should go on an overseas cruise."
Half a year ago, my son suddenly came over and gave me a 2-week trip as a gift. He said he wanted to cheer me up after losing my husband. Oh my! What a thoughtful gesture. Thank you. I joyfully went on the cruise with my hobby friends, planning to help my son and his wife when I returned. However,
Lily passed away a week ago, and we already had the funeral.
When I visited my son right after returning to deliver souvenirs, I was shocked to hear the news at the doorstep. It was so sudden that they had the funeral with just the two of them. No way. As I tried to peek inside the house, my son quickly blocked my view.
"I didn't tell you because I wanted you to enjoy your trip."
Indeed, I was on the sea at that time. Did you inform her parents? What about Ron? I bombarded him with questions, and my son frowned.
"I've contacted her parents, and Ron is in shock, so please leave him alone."
I couldn't believe Lily was gone. "Can I come in?" I asked, but my son glared at me.
"Stop thinking only about yourself. You're really persistent."
He yelled and shoved me into the empty street, causing me to fall. This boy is also grieving the loss of his beloved family. I accepted what he said, feeling deeply ashamed of my selfishness. Looking up at my glaring son, I apologized and decided to leave. Now, I regret not forcing my way in then, for something terrible was already happening. The next day, I decided to call my son first to ask if he needed help instead of showing up unannounced. But he didn't answer, possibly busy with work. I wanted to visit Lily's grave and check on my grandson. Yet, I didn't want to burden my son with my demands. After several unanswered calls, I left a message asking if I could visit. The next day, still no call back, so I decided to call once more. After a few rings, my son answered with an irritated tone.
"Why are you calling so much? I've got a lot going on here."
"Why?" "Because I'm worried about you and my grandson."
"By the way, Ron ran away. He left a note saying I'm following Mom."
I was horrified by the note my grandson left. Oh no. Did you call the police?
"Of course. I called them immediately.
I was terribly worried about Ron. He must be lonely after losing his mother. Oh, please come back. My hand holding the phone grew cold and numb. I'll look for him too.
He'll come back eventually, so you don't need to do anything.
My son shouted as I was about to hang up. Maybe he was trying to keep me from worrying, but I couldn't ignore a missing 10-year-old. But what did the police say?
Huh? Oh, the police? They're doing interviews and searches.
My son's vague response made me suspicious.
Anyway, don't worry, he'll be back soon.
Then he angrily hung up. Is he really looking for Ron? A small doubt began to grow in my heart. That night, I couldn't sleep at all, constantly worrying about my grandson. As the sky began to lighten, I made a decision. Better to walk around searching for Ron than doing nothing. More searchers would be better. I headed to the police station as soon as the inquiry desk opened at 8:30. My grandson ran away, and you're searching for him, right? Any leads? The officer listened and checked the status. To my shock, they said no search request had been filed. What? That can't be. I was stunned, remembering my son's evasive answers. He's hiding something. Thanking the officer, I immediately went to my son's house. I rang the doorbell, but there was no response, as he was likely already at work. Using my spare key, I let myself in. From the back, I heard noises. Did he leave the TV on? Curiously, I headed towards the sound, finding my grandson chained in the kitchen storage space. Ron! What happened to you? I rushed to him and hugged him.
Grandma. Please. Help Mom first.
He pointed to the floor storage nearby with his chin. But your mom is gone, right? The funeral was held.
No. Mom is here. Please hurry.
He was in a panic, crying and kicking to get closer. His frantic expression made me realize something was seriously wrong. I fearfully opened the floor storage. No. Lily. There lay my daughter-in-law, mouth gagged, hands and feet bound with tape, dried up and lifeless.
It's all Dad's fault. Wah. Mom.
Seeing his changed mother, my grandson screamed and cried. I hugged him and immediately called an ambulance. The operator arranged for the police and rescue team to cut the chains, and both Ron and Lily were rushed to the hospital. In the ambulance, my sobbing grandson explained what had happened. What a horrible thing. I'll make sure he pays for this, Ron. Grandma will see to it. Listening to him, I vowed to bring justice for my grandson and daughter-in-law. Later, with the police, I heard more details in the hospital room. My son had been away for about a week. After Ron fell asleep, I asked the nurse to look after him and went straight to a lawyer's office. Determined to expose my son's crimes, I searched everywhere. 8 days after finding Lily and Ron, I was sitting in my son's living room. As I heard the front door open, it signaled my son's return home.
Mom?
Dressed in flashy shirts and jeans that didn't look like work attire, he was surprised to see me. Then, my son quickly glanced toward the kitchen. Of course, you'd be concerned about the kitchen, where you chained a 10-year-old child. When I glared at him, Simon looked startled.
Chained? What are you talking about? You mean the toy handcuffs he was playing with?
His flustered and lame excuse made me feel nauseous. Enough with the lies. You left a 10-year-old alone for over a week. You said Ron ran away from home, didn't you? When I accused him sternly, Simon's eyes darted around, occasionally glancing toward the kitchen.
He did run away, but the police found him.
Liar. You didn't even file a missing person report. I confirmed it myself. I stood up from the chair with a bang and yelled, making my son wince and fall silent.
But, Lily's gone, and I have to work for the sake of the kid left behind.
He mumbled, sneaking glances to check if the floor hatch was open. That's completely different from what Ron told me. Just as I started speaking, my son shouted.
Enough already, you old hag. Haven't you finished menopause?
He raised his voice, interrupting me, and tried to drag me out of the house. I found your dried-up wife under the floor you keep glancing at. I know everything. I pushed his hand away with all my strength, my hair disheveled as I screamed. Simon paled at my words. In fact, I had heard the full story from my grandson on the day I found Ron and Lily. Ron had been on a 5-day camp until the day before I returned. When he came back, full of memories, Simon told him, "Mom has passed away." No matter what Ron asked, Simon didn't answer and blocked the kitchen with a partition, preventing access. My grandson cried, "I want to see Mom. I want to see Grandma," but Simon only yelled, "Shut up." When I visited Simon's house right after returning, Ron heard the doorbell and was thrilled.
Grandma's here.
He tried to run to the door, but Simon gagged him and held him down. You told him, you weren't here when your mom died, so the police suspect you. If you don't want to get caught, stay hidden.
I don't remember that.
Ron must have been terrified. Shocked by his father's words, my grandson hid in his room, holding his breath. Unaware of this, I believed Simon and went home after being shoved into the street. That night, Ron heard rustling sounds from the kitchen. Curious, he sneaked in through a gap in the partition and found his bound and gagged mother in the floor storage. He shouted, "Mom," in shock, which got Simon's attention. Simon chained Ron and shoved him into the storage space. Ron heard Simon muttering, "I thought she'd be dead after 3 days." This revealed that Lily had been without food or water for 5 days, mummifying in the floor storage.
That's just a made-up story by him.
Simon claimed Ron was lying because he was in his rebellious phase. Then why was she mummified?
Actually, Lily had a high fever and died suddenly. I loved her and couldn't let go, so I kept her at home.
He lowered his head, wiping fake tears. I approached him quietly.
Mom.
My son reached out for comfort, but I grabbed a stack of papers from his nearby bag and hit him hard on the head. Don't be ridiculous. You neglected your child for over a week and went on an affair trip. That's your idea of love? The stack of papers was evidence of my son's infidelity. His computer was full of emails and photos with his mistress, and gifts and luxurious dinners were all documented in the photos.
Where did you get those?
Frantically trying to hide the papers, he looked pathetic. I found this account book in your closet. I slammed a bank book on the table, making Simon's face twitch. The bank book showed transfers totaling $200,000 over 3 months, way too much for a salary. You said you were in accounting, but this is embezzlement.
Ha! This is a bonus. It's too early for you to go senile.
He spat back, but then.
That's not true.
A strong voice came from the next room. Simon looked in shock as a tall, middle-aged man stepped out.
Ollie?
Yes, he was Ollie, the head of accounting at Simon's company. After finding Lily and consulting with the police, I also discussed the suspicious transfers with the manager. The company was aware of the unusual transactions and was already investigating. Ollie had called to check on us, and I informed him about Simon's return. Instead of calling the police, I called Ollie, who offered to accompany me for safety.
You've let me down.
Standing with folded arms and glaring at Simon, he continued.
Everyone makes mistakes, but a crime is inexcusable even once.
What? Simon told me he was an exceptional employee. I asked, confused by the contradiction.
No, he makes many mistakes and tries to blame female colleagues.
I was stunned and looked at Simon, who avoided eye contact.
Still, I believed he had potential. Embezzlement is unforgivable.
Spending stolen money on your mistress. What a disgrace. Shrinking under our combined scolding, Simon suddenly raised his head and started speaking boldly.
Embezzlement and infidelity were wrong, but I couldn't accept Lily's sudden death. I wanted her close, so I put her under the floor.
Claiming she wasn't alive when confined, he began sobbing theatrically. Stop lying. Lily is alive. When I revealed that Lily survived, my son's eyes widened in horror. His fake tears were obvious. That day, thanks to the doctors, Lily was saved and, though bedridden, gave statements to the police matching Ron's. She discovered Simon's bankbook and was attacked when she tried to contact the company. Remembering her trembling during her statement made my anger flare up again.
Our company values customer trust above all. We cannot tolerate this. You're fired.
The manager's low, powerful voice made Simon tear up. What you did is unforgivable. You're cut off. You won't see your wife or child again. My declaration visibly shook Simon.
What? Fired and cut off? How am I supposed to live? Help me, Mom.
Go cry in the bathroom again. I pushed away my son, who was clinging to me, crying. Just then, I heard police sirens, signaling the arrival of officers called before Ollie's appearance.
Am I really getting arrested? I just wanted to impress a younger woman.
Simon cried out, but I handed him over to the police, shooing him away. After that, my son was arrested. The lawyer predicts that, due to embezzling company funds, he might spend about 10 years in prison. Lily divorced him immediately and demanded $200,000 in alimony and child support. I hope he spends his life in poverty and loneliness, darker than the space under the floorboards. On the other hand, Lily has fully recovered, and Ron is doing well too. Feeling responsible for my son's actions, I offered to support their living expenses, but Lily firmly refused, saying she would work. Instead, she asked me to help take care of Ron, which feels like a reward, to be able to spend time with my adorable grandson at such an easy-to-handle age. Lily started working as an insurance agent and amazingly became the top salesperson nationwide. I will continue to watch over both of them with all my heart. How did you find this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.